So, what is the biggest driver that you have during your lifetime? Is it seeking wisdom? Is it creating a better world for ourselves and for others? Spiritual expansion, that one day you'll come one with the universe? Well, about 30 years ago, I would definitely have given you this answer. I was 23. I started to train companies, individuals, groups, non-profit organizations, profit organizations. And as the years passed, I started to notice something. Some organizations failed miserably, and some organizations succeeded. But there was something about these organizations that actually failed. Something that always was the common denominator. I couldn't put my finger on it. But looking at the companies that actually succeeded, there was always the situation that people wanted to work for someone. The group they were in, but especially their leader. Let's call it sergeant. The funny thing is, those organizations that didn't have that were mostly the organizations that had idealism in them. They were firing up their people. They were enthusiastic. They had the ideals written on the wall when you walked in. Yet, they failed. It took me some more years and a lot of hairs that flushed down the drain of my shower to actually to put my finger on it. It was personal recognition. Every place where people were working actually for personal recognition were the places that won. And this was not a nice idea because I liked all the stuff that had to do with firing up people, making enthusiastic, finding your inner sources, intrinsic information, intrinsic motivation. Unfortunately, we cannot get past that fourth layer of Maslow's pyramid. And 95% of our lives, we are seeking personal information. And things are not going well with us the moment we don't get it. So, first thing I have to nail down is what is personal recognition? It's funny, you can't even find a Wikipedia page dedicated to the subject. So here's my definition. Personal recognition is to be seen and to be accepted for who you are, and to get credit and acknowledgement for the things you do from someone that you actually want it from. That last one is important. Let me give you the whole thing again. Personal recognition is to be seen and to be accepted for who you really are, and to get credit and acknowledgement from somebody that you really want it from. Who are these people we want it from? That was a difficult one too. At first I thought bosses, and also I figured out, well, it must be the people that are very much experts in their fields, so their recognition would be more important to you. Actually isn't. We want recognition from people we have a relationship with. Now I had to figure out what that was. Relationship occurs when you start trusting someone and you start to tell this person more about yourself. And in the end, you tell more about yourself to that person than you tell to other people. The more you trust someone, the more you tell that person. And the more you have told that person, the more that person becomes an expert on the field of who you are. Which also means that their advice is more important than those of others. And the funny thing is, their recognition is worth to you more. So the process of relationship is, you trust people, you tell them more. The more you told them, the more you trust them. And the more you want their personal recognition. So, mind you, personal recognition has nothing to do with compliments. And this may sound strange at first. But how many times do you give compliments to your closest friends? How many times do you sit together and give each other compliments? Actually, if you think about it, you give much more compliments to total strangers than you give to your friends. In work, or stuff we try to realize, or activities we try to realize, we actually do not want compliments either. We want people to acknowledge what we're doing. We want people to know how difficult it is for us to do this very thing. Actually, everybody in his life has experienced the feeling of castration sometimes when a boss or somebody who has to rate you gives you a compliment for something that was actually very easy to do. Because that moment, you don't take the compliment as personal recognition, but as a sign, he or she actually doesn't know what I'm doing at all. What happens if we are in an organization where we get recognition? What happens if we have relationships? Because we can only we only want personal recognition from people we have relationship with. Actually, we thrive. We always feel that whatever we do or whatever risk we take or whatever sideway we take from the KPI machine or from what the official goals are, that we get respected, that we get acknowledged, that somebody is watching us. Those organizations I spoke in the beginning that were doing so well are usually the people that have a lot of middle management that actually care about their people and actually have a relationship with them. And now we dare to take risks. Now the organization becomes flexible because you try something else, you are in some kind of group that has to figure something out, and you know that at the end of the road you're not going to be judged because you didn't make your main KPIs. You feel acknowledged all the time. You want the personal recognition of your co-workers, you want the personal recognition of that direct leader, that sergeant. And this is where we start to fail, actually. You see very little organizations, especially non-profit, where we try to feed people the ideal of the company. You should do your best, or you should work your ass off for the very simple reason we have an ideal. In profit organizations, we have a goal, we have a KPI. Why do we shy away from this whole principle that we want personal recognition? Well, basically because it sounds so lame. And sometimes when I work with organizations in Holland or outside, it feels so lame when I say it. We actually work for personal recognition. Is this need for personal recognition a Western thing? No, it absolutely is not. I've worked with companies inside, outside, and I've seen Japanese that bow to the flag of the company before they even start to do training or whatever. I've seen Chinese that had a complete hive mentality. I've seen Africans that almost took a tribal idea of how to be in an organization. I've seen very proud North and South Americans. And under this very thin veneer of this is our culture, of the corporation, of who we come from, of this country, there is this need for personal recognition. So no, this has nothing to do with culture. Actually, funnily enough, Germans seem to understand this thing much better. And I think this is the sole reason why their economy and also their non-profit organizations are doing always relatively quite well. They understand the value of this. So, back to where we work. What happens if we cannot get the recognition that we want? We work somewhere, we can't get it. Either the leadership fails or something is wrong with the relationships. What happens is that we try to get recognition, personal recognition from other sources. It's a basic need. We can't function without it. It's like water. And the problem is, that is the moment we start to try to get this personal recognition from, let's say, sources that we should never be dependent on. Now, it gets difficult. What does that mean? Some people in our life, we should not be dependent on the recognition. We like to get it, but if you get dependent on it, trouble starts. And this is not something about companies, it's universal. Let's take our children. We have a relationship with our children, yeah, of course, as much as we can. Do we like it when we get their recognition? Of course we like it. What happens if we need it? They eat us up. That's actually their job. You can compare it to credit. It's absolutely okay if the bank sends you a credit card saying, we would love you to activate it through internet and to use our credits. But we start to get into trouble the moment we go to the bank and we say, we need credit. It's okay to get it, but you should not need it. What happens in a company or a non-profit organization or any organization when we do not get the personal recognition that we need, or at least want? We start to get this recognition, we start to get this need fulfilled in the outside world. So let's take, for example, a profit organization. You have these people that go to the clients, and the recognition, they have better relationship with the clients than with their own leaders. They have better relationship. The recognition of the leader, of the client, means more to them. So you can understand what happens to the profit. They will give it away because their recognition is more important. Funny enough, the top of the organization, and this also can be a non-profit organization, actually thinks that they are winning. Because, hey, we have an incredible customer focus. Our people even hang out with the clients or with the target group outside of work hours. No, they're getting their personal recognition there. So this need for personal recognition and where things go wrong in organizations, where it cannot be gained, it's very hard to look at if you don't know what you're watching for, what you're looking for. And therefore it's very important to get your own need fulfilled for the personal recognition that you want through relationships. Because if you don't see the needs in others either. And then it will be very difficult to understand why people want your recognition. And this can lead to disasters. Since personal recognition is not really a subject we talk about a lot of times, it's a disaster that we actually cannot identify. Things go wrong for other reasons. So take a good look at it. Think about it. What do I need? What do other people need? And what happens if we don't get it? How much politics and how much conniving for positions, and how much ineffective organizations become if we cannot get the personal recognition we want, either from co-workers, but especially from direct leaders. Time is up. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you.